So yeah, recognizing the mutuality of my relationship with the tree is an essential step in recognizing the tree as thou. And I just explained that. I think what he says is super cool. My relationship with another human being, and this is going to get a little bit more complicated, only for the fact that I wanted to complicate it a little bit. But I want to describe the relationship, the I-thou relationship with another human being, because he makes the distinction as well. Okay, so we'll put relation. Right, my relation with another person. He says immediately, right, human beings are not merely he's, she's, it's, right? Obviously, we recognize that there is a relational experience that I can have with a human being as a he, she, it, right? And we talked about this relational experience being bounded in the last series, 1 through 6. I forget what videos it were. I mentioned it. But so that we're sort of, you know, cogs in the machine, right? You have human being here, object here, object here, object here, another person here, another person here. And we're sort of just all sort of connected as it's, as things connected. Because in a sense we are things, right? And Buber's not denying that. This is stuff, just like this is stuff. The difference between this stuff and the difference between this stuff is, you know, is very, very small on a molecular level, right? We're basically all, in that sense, the same stuff, but I am stuff. There's no denying the fact that I'm stuff and you're stuff. But there's more to us than just being stuff, right? I am not like the book. I mean, why is it that I'm not like the book? And the book isn't like me, and why is it the book isn't like me? Those questions are a little bit more difficult to answer, and that's the stuff that we need to address. My relation with another human being, the second bullet point, a man's being is whole, and this is a quote, whole in himself. The being of a man, right? The being. So if we were to separate this person and just analyze the individual person by himself, right? He says that the being is whole. He says that the being is whole. A man's being is whole in himself. The thou of a man is undifferentiated. It's unbound. It's undifferentiated. It's unbound. The thou of the man is undifferentiated, unbound. Well, we can see that the fact that I even drew a picture on the board fails. Really and truly, this should be blank, right? Because I've differentiated an arm from a leg from a head from a neck from a torso, and so on and so forth, right? There's differentiation insofar as I preserve embodiment. The whole point, by definition, and this is like a bachelor's an unmarried man, corporeal substance is differentiated substance. I can identify parts, sections, you know, variations in stuff. And I don't want to sort of presuppose, because I know there's a whole discourse on the presuppositions of substantial substance itself, right? I'm not getting into that discourse now. But when we're talking about stuff in the world, stuff can be differentiated, and that's undeniable. Insofar as I've made a differentiation, I've already reinforced this I-it relationship. So to be technical, and if you're following me now, this circle really should be blank, right? There shouldn't be anything there. So the being of a man, of a woman, of people, of us, of human beings, the being of us is sort of like this. It's sort of just blank. But not empty in the nothing sense, because we remember that when we're talking about I-it relationship, there's something. When we're talking about I-thou relationship, there's nothing. Not nothing in the nothing sense, as an absence, but nothing in the no thing. At least that's my interpretation of it. Nothing in the no thing sense, right? There isn't a thing there to be differentiated. Okay. Differentiation removes one from recognizing the thou, and then there is no experience. It's for Buber, there is no experience of man as thou. He says, quote, "In the act of experience, thou is far away. In the act of experience, thou is far away. So even our words start to fail us at this level. Now, I don't want to lose you, right? So I'm going to try and make sense of this, right? And I have an interpretation that I think works, but I want to go slow. Buber says, in the act of experience, thou is far away. So you have to ask yourself, right? If I'm here and we're talking about my relation to another human being, and I see Bob. Well, the first thing that you recognize is that by identifying this individual as Bob, I've already differentiated him, right? I've already differentiated Bob from Tim, from Mary, from Sue, from Bill, from whoever, right? I've already made a differentiation. Insofar as I've differentiated Bob from all these other people, then I've preserved my I-it relationship. So we don't want to look at Bob as Bob. We want to look at Bob as man. More general, right? More general. Bob is more an instantiation of man. I can write this out mathematically, but you guys know this already. Bob is an instantiation of man. We want to go up the ladder, not down the ladder. To go up the ladder, we get more general. Bob is a man. So I say, well, Bob is a man, right? So not Bob. Now we're just talking about man. But as soon as I say man, I recognize that I'm differentiating man as opposed to woman. So let's get rid of man, right? So then I have to get something that's more general than man. This is how you can sort of follow the train of thought. When we get really general, I'm going to see Bob as being. Now that's cool, right? Nobody does this better than Heidegger, but I will never present a lecture on Heidegger because I don't understand him. I don't understand Heidegger. He's tough. And maybe, I can't say never, but Heidegger wrote the book on being, for the most part. And I've read him, but I don't understand him. So if anybody understands Heidegger, make a video on Heidegger, send me a link so that I can watch some stuff on Heidegger and get my skills up on Heidegger. Heidegger's a tough nut to crack. But anyway, so you get the idea, right? I've gone from Bob to, if I can write his name right, I've gone from Bob to man to being, right? And what I've said is that this idea of being it's a very general sense, right? And what I have to do then is when I meet Bob, recognize that Bob is Bob, that Bob is man, that Bob is being. When I see Bob as being now, I'm no longer concerned with any of that. It's just Bob as Bob is, right? You could just say, or just is. And then I can't even talk, and then it gets weird. But insofar as I'm still engaged in this sort of experiential, taxonomic classification of who Bob is, I'll never see Bob for who he really is a person, right? It's his existence, his being, effectively is beyond my experience, right? It's not that which is, and this is, even I you know, I understand it, but even at this level, it's like, I don't know if I know what that means, right? And usually I present information because I know the information, and I do know Buber, but it's, even you know, I'm not an expert in everything, and it's at this level where I just, you know, I get a little lost. So I'm not going to get into that. That part is, even for me, it's a little bit hard to get my mind around. What I did like was the sort of how he approached this, because then Buber shifts the discourse, right? And I actually want to read, the next section title is called "The Eternal Source of Art."